Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you the process that I use to install Java, the JDK and JRE, as well as the Eclipse IDE on a new system. So if you're getting started with Java, or like in my case and a lot of other students, we're switching from something like BlueJ, which is very beginner friendly but not very versatile for bigger applications. We've been recommended to look for something a little more robust, and the one that was recommended was Eclipse, which happens to be my favorite environment to work in, and I'd much have preferred to have used this in the first year, but I digress. Anyway, everything that I use in this video is going to be linked in the description below, so if there's anything that you're not too sure on where to get, I'll leave a link to everything, as well as anything that I'll copy paste in, or everything I type in that might be useful to you. Definitely check down there if you need it. But without further ado, I will get started. So first things first, and mind you, you don't have to do this on your own machine. All the steps I take here are purely to show you either how things are running or if things are running right. Follow along if you so desire. I'm going to go at a relatively brisk pace, so definitely pause, rewind, replay, whatever you need to do to go at your own pace. I don't want to try and rush you. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to prove to you that there is no Java installed on here at the moment. Java is not recognized. It does not exist as far as Windows is concerned. This is a brand new, you know what? Let me quickly switch scenes. This is running in a virtual machine, so I've literally just created it today and put a new key on there, so it's all brand new, sparkly shiny. But yeah, there is no Java version. So if I close this down, we need to get Java. And not only that, I'm going to show you a way to get both Java and Eclipse without having to click next like a whole bunch of times. And the way to do that is to use something called newcommers.com. And what it is a one-stop shop for your applications. A lot of these are sort of development or creative inspired, so as well as some essentials, so things like 7-zip or Malwarebytes, VLC Media Player, all sorts, Chrome, everything. I actually use this to install Chrome on this, so you'll see in my downloads folder in a second I've actually got another one on there. But yeah, if you're like me and you've been asked by the uni to install a particular version, or you're looking for a particular version for whatever reason, Ninite offers you the long-term supported release of the JDK and JRE. So the runtime is for running Java applications, if you're not too sure. You can run an application with just the runtime environment. To actually compile, like from code to an application, you need the JDK, the development kit. And the versions they give you is the 32-bit version 8, the 64-bit 8, as well as the 64-bit version 11. And the one that the uni have recommended is version 11, so that it all works with whatever they're using, whatever that may be. And also, I'm just going to say now, I usually recommend installing the runtime separate as well. So if anything happens to the development kit, for whatever reasons, either you fudge something or Windows decides to fudge something, you've got two different versions available. And funnily enough, Eclipse comes with these. Like, you don't actually need these. These are useful from the command line if you need that separate. So I recommend downloading these with Eclipse, even if Eclipse comes with it. However, having them is better than not having them, and they're not going to interfere. If anything, they just give you more options. So these two here, the JRE 11.0.12, 64-bit, as well as JDK 64-bit 11.0.12. And finally, we need Eclipse. And yeah, they're the main things we need. We don't need anything else, although I do recommend if there's anything in this list you need now that you know you're probably going to need later, or like, oh, I need that, 7-zip or anything else. I won't do it for this video, but tick all the things you need. If they're all you need, the ones that I'm recommending here, you can click Get Your Ninite, and what it'll do is it will create a bundled installer for just those three things. Okay, and if you ticked anything else, they'd show up in here too. I'll leave a link to this if you don't want to have to tick more things. Ticking less things is better, clicking less buttons is better. This will be your one-stop shop to just get this running. And wherever this is saved to, whether you're using Chrome, Internet Explorer, whatever, Firefox, wherever that's saved, you should have a new Nanite with Eclipse, JDK, blah, blah, blah. It'll give you in the title what it is. And like I said, you can see my Chrome installer that I did here too. But yeah, should be safe to run. Setting up, you get an alert if you're running Windows user access control. Yeah, like everything, should be safe to run. There's nothing bundled in with this that's nasty. And it just gets straight to work. It doesn't hang about. It will now go through and in order download the development kit, the runtime environment, and also Eclipse. And it's quite efficient. When one's installing, it'll start downloading the next. And when this is finished downloading, it will start installing and then start downloading the next. So it's very efficient. Very, very efficient. I will say, Eclipse will take a while to download. I don't know if it's the mirrors, the websites that host the download, but all I know is that it takes a long time to download. So don't worry if that takes forever. In the meantime, since these two are pretty much installed, I'll close this down. I'm going to show you some cool stuff. Actually, I don't need this at all. So first of all, let me wait for that to finish installing. My laptop is crying out in pain running the VM. Okay, so under status, these two are okay. And we can see if I run Java Tech version, it automatically adds these to the class path. I do believe the natural installer that comes with them does this for you too, just as a proof is in the pudding. Running Java Tech version under your command prompt will show you the version and the particular JDK that you're running. So these are Open JDK, the open version of the official Java JDK from Oracle. Works perfectly fine. I've never had a problem with it. If anything, it works better on my Linux machines sometimes. So it is what it is. But yeah, just a bit of proof that it's working. If you're not too sure where this is, notice how it doesn't tell you where this is stored, right? There is a very, very handy, very useful, oops, I don't want to type V in there. I'm trying to copy this across. Here we go. I'll put this in the description too. Running this command, single line, very, very nice and succinct, and then clicking enter. What it will do is it will search for the cases of java.exe in your file system. And we can see here it spits out C, program files, Eclipse Foundation, JDK, blah, blah, blah. Now, everything up to where it says bin is the location that this java.exe is stored. So if I go into my file browser and at the top just paste that in and go, we can see here there's a whole bunch of API, DLL files and all this fancy stuff right here. But, oops, no, didn't mean to drag that. If I just go back a couple of folders at the top, we can see we've got the JDK 11.0.12 and we've got the JRE 11.0.12. And these are distinctly separate. So you can refer to these in, say, Eclipse if you needed this particular version. The version Eclipse gives you lets you select which version you want as well from their own plugin store. This is why I mentioned even if these are not even used, they're handy to have on your system because the command prompt uses these. I did try and install earlier where I only ticked Eclipse and it never registered Java in here. We still couldn't use Java in the command prompt, which one day you might need. So it's very nice to have these versions here available. Yeah, basically this is to fill time while Eclipse downloads for you guys if you're interested. If you switched off, don't worry. The main thing is once this is downloaded, we'll get back into the meat of it. But yeah, essentially this is your quick way of finding where the JDK and JRE are stored. Sometimes you need it. Another way of checking is, of course, in your actual class path, like the environment variables on Windows. To get to there, if you're not too sure, because things have changed since Windows 7 and all that, if you go to your File Explorer and then go to this PC and right-click you can find properties. And that's just a quick way of getting into your settings about blah, blah, blah. What we're looking for is advanced system settings on the right here. And in here, we can see performance, user profile, startup and recovery. You might recognize this from like Windows XP and Windows 7. What we need is environment variables down here. And in the system variable list, if we double click the one that says path, this is a list of where all of our runnable applications are. And we can see both the JDK and JRE are both available through here. So we can compile and run from the command line, and they're pointing in the right locations. So that's another way of checking if you don't want to use the shortcut link in the command prompt. But yeah, that's a nice clean way of getting to it. If you're not interested in any of that and you're just basically like, I just want to run it and it works, you don't need to do any of this. This is all just like superfluous. I'm just showing you this as a, if you ever need it, you can check back in the video for it. So hopefully that helps. Now, once Eclipse is finished downloading, it will give us a shortcut on our desktop to use it. And also, compared to the zip installer direct from their website, we can actually search it. So if I even start typing Eclipse here, I've copied and pasted something. We can see Eclipse as an application is available on here, which if you downloaded the zip wouldn't be available. So I can show you actually, because I made this mistake on my machine. If I just zoom back out of the virtual machine and I just type in here Eclipse, all it gives me is the website link, and this will open in Edge or something like that. It does recognize the Eclipse folders, some of the folders that are under Eclipse, but yeah, I don't have this version, that option available. Whereas if you do it this way, you do, which is exactly what you need. Don't make my mistake. Learn from my mistakes. This is what you need. So once it's done, you can click close, and we can run Eclipse. I'll just pin it here. If you need it, then pin it. Very useful. And when it launches, we will get, oh, this is a nice picture. My one's not as fancy as that. I'm gonna have to update. Yeah, the first thing, get distracted. The window that pops up at the beginning is going to be the location for your workspace. And that is essentially where all of your new projects are going to be stored and where Eclipse is going to keep track of it. Usually this will be saved under, if I just open up the File Explorer here, the location that downloads, documents, pictures, music, they're all stored under your user profile. So a quick way there is this PC, your local disk, users, and then the user account for your profile. And then you can see on here like pictures, music, downloads and whatnot. If I just pop this over here for when I need it and let Eclipse do its thing, we'll see that when we go to create it, it'll ask for a location to save this in. Here we go. Set a directory as Workspace. And by default, it will try and put it right next to your documents and all that. You can change this to whatever you like. It will create this new directory whenever you're ready. I usually leave it as it is, since I don't really mess with the workspace that much. Personally, I have a different folder for my projects, which are tracked by Git and GitHub. And so I usually refer stuff that I've linked to Git and GitHub from there. So I leave the workspace as is, as just a local store. If you're not too sure, if you don't know what you're doing, leave it be. Eclipse does everything for you pretty much. You don't have to change much at all. As you learn more and more stuff about it and start experimenting with it, you'll be able to change some of these options. And if you're not too worried, if you're not going to be working with lots of different workspaces, which chances are you're probably not if you're getting started, I usually tick this box here. And what it will do is it will save this as the default and always open there at the beginning, so you don't keep getting this window pop up. I prefer it because I make demo videos and stuff like that, which is kind of useful. Oh, I realized I'm not in the actual VM option here. I think that's a bit better for you guys. You can see here that, yeah, if you leave all this as default, then clicking launch, you'll just get that very fancy picture here, and it'll just instantly start loading up, which I find very, very useful. And we can see here that Eclipse Workspace, the new folder's been created. And in there, you'll see that some metadata for Eclipse is already stored in there for keeping track of stuff. Yeah, we can close that, and away we go. We have Eclipse running. Now, like I mentioned, Eclipse comes with the JDK and JRE pre-installed, so you don't have to mess with any of those like extra options if you don't want to. And it is very flexible. They actually give you the option to compile and run at a lower level. It comes with version 16, which is like the bleeding edge latest version. So if you need version 11, comes with version 11 pre-built in. I'm just running it from the CMD so that should we have a lab or a lecture or something that we're, got to do it from the command line. I think last year we had a module doing that or something. Can't remember. Came in handy then, might come in handy for you. So I'd recommend getting it. You get introduced with this welcome screen, and it gives you some handy dandy shortcuts for some stuff to get started. Personally, I've never actually used any of these, I won't lie. I think when I started using Eclipse, it didn't even have a welcome screen. It just sort of threw you in and was like, good luck. And hopefully what I'm going to show you now will get you started without needing any of these too. But feel free, check it out. If you want to come back to this later, you can always tick this to always show it when you start up. Might be a nice little greeting. But personally, like I said, I don't use any of these. I'm seasoned enough to not have to worry. And yeah, every tab at the top here will have an X to close, and that will take us into the main environment. So if I just full screen this for your viewing pleasure, and mine too, we can see here that we've got the donation option available. The foundation, I believe, runs on donations only, so show your support if you so desire and donate. This is available on the website too, so you don't have to leave this tabbed up there if need be. And if we close that down too, we have a 100% blank environment ready for whatever you desire. And you might say, well, that's all well and good. How do I start? How do I actually start programming? How do I run stuff? And in this section, I'll show you like all the shortcuts and all the useful stuff. If you just cared about installing, then you can switch off here. It's up to you. But these are some of the things that I find useful. So getting started, you can either go like File, New, and then Project or whatever. You'll get the same right-clicking on here once you've got some projects. But we haven't got anything here yet, so we'll just create a Java project. And I'll just show you with some throwaway code, just some hello world stuff, yeah? So let's just call it hello world. The project name, doesn't care about case, spaces, numbers, letters, whatever. Put whatever you like in. All it's going to do is create a new folder under your workspace with that project name. So that'll automatically be created under there. You can manually change it if you so desire, but usually I'll leave it as the default, just so I can find it easier. All my projects are in one space. The JRE, the runtime environment, what level will this application run at? And we can see we've got version 16 here. For the uni, I am recommended to run version 11. So I'm going to compile and run this at version 11. And we can see here the default compiler compliance level for this current project is 16. The new project will use a project-specific compiler. What that means is it will compile to version 11 and run at version 11 so that it's all supported. If you want the latest and greatest, you can run version 16 and the little info message will disappear because that is the latest version. Alternatively, you could, I actually have a video on how to set up JavaFX under Eclipse, and here we actually configure a new project-specific runtime environment which is designed for running JavaFX. And this option can be very useful if you've got like other packages that require stuff or like other modules. But in our situation, we're just going to be running some basic stuff, and I'll even run it at version 11 just to prove it. And the project layout, I leave this be. Work sets, leave this be. This is a new thing, the module. I have found this causes absolute headaches and nightmares for a lot of people new to Java and new to Eclipse. And personally, I'd say just leave it unticked. I never use the module info.java. It's designed for things like JavaFX, where you can like import modules into your project on the fly. I don't use it. It causes more problems than solves them. So leave that unticked. If you don't leave it unticked, and I'll leave it ticked showing you what it will tell you next. I don't think this used to have an option here. So just to recap before I click next, all you really need is the project name and the execution environment that it's going to be running at. They're the main two things you change. That and this module, I'd leave unticked. For demonstration purposes, I'll leave this ticked and click Finish. And you'll see that it comes up, new module info.java. Yeah, module info here. We can generate a module.info.java file. And usually I'd just click Don't Create. If you know what you're doing with this, I'm not going to stop you. You obviously know more than me about this and have done a lot more reading on it than I have. Personally, I don't understand it, so I don't use it, and it seems to work for me. So if you're getting started, like me, and don't understand what's going on with it, just don't create it. Leave it unticked if you can. And what that'll do is it will create a new project with the title that you gave it and give you these two options here for JRE System Library and SRC. The JRE System Library is basically all the preset packages that are built into Java, like the core libraries that you'll need. So, for example, system.out, so you can print to the console, and things like that. Very, very useful, all built in. And the source folder is where your project code is going to be stored. And being the SRC folder, it is a source folder, and Eclipse understands to compile that into your final project whenever you run it, so it knows where to source it from. If you don't understand that, don't worry. Just know that's where your code goes. Put your code in there. You won't have a problem. How do I do that? Very straightforward. You right-click on the SRC folder. You go to New, and you go to Class. If you want packages, if you want to do the structure of packages, you can do that first. It's up to you. I'm not going to hold your hand with this. If you know what you're doing, then go straight ahead. If you're not too sure, I would recommend doing your first class, and it gives you the option to set the package that it will be in, and it will create it as well. So you can do all of this from one window. So for me, I'm going to call this package the reverse of my website. So dev.jazza. And then I'm going to call it just example. Actually, you know what? Let's call it hello world. There we go. The reason for the backwards website name is to make it unique, so that if this application was used and imported into someone else's project as, say, a library, like when you have to import stuff from like another library or something like that, and it's got some sort of weird convention like org.something.whatever, it's to be unique, so there's no clashing with other people's projects. If it's just going to live on your computer, you can omit everything. You can just leave it as a plain package, and that's usually fine. Just know that that's the convention that other people use, and that's the reason behind it. As for the name, it's just the name of the class you want to create, and I'm going to call this hello, because that's what it's going to do. It's just going to say hello. Usually you can just click finish here. It does give you some other options too, so you can make this an abstract class if you so desire. You can change the class that it's built from, so what it extends, what its parent class is going to be, any interfaces that it pulls from. Mind you, you can do all this in code after, so if you just want to create a blank class like I am right now, then just click finish. We are going to need a public static void main. I'll show you a quick way of doing that. I mean, ticking a box is technically quicker, but if you need to throw it in somewhere, I'll show you how to do that. Constructors from Superclass. So if your Superclass had some sort of a constructor layout, it'll automatically import them so that you can build upon it or change it or limit based upon what you desire from there. And finally, you can generate comments too. So it'll have comments pre-built in. Very, very useful if you're working on a big project and people need to refer to stuff and it's shared and all that. You're not there yet. Don't worry about it. Just package, name, go. Okay, and here we are. A very, very simple hello.java file. And the file structure here is actually mimicked in your, if I go to it, this piece. Oh, quick way of doing this. Right click on the project. If you open, where are we? Show in and System Explorer. What that'll do is it will open your Windows Explorer in your workspace and show it highlighting the folder that the project is in. Very, very useful, very quick way of getting to the folder. And if we open there, we've got the source folder. And we've also got these other things like settings, bin stands for binary, .classpath and .project. These two refer to the project details. So things like how does this project know it's called Hello World? Well, that's stored in the .project file. How does it know that we're using SE-11? That's in the class path. And the settings are obviously for the settings of the project as a whole. You don't have to worry about any of these, trust me. The only thing that you need to worry about is the src folder. And like you can see here, that corresponds src, hello world, hello.java, and hello.java, magic. So that's how you can easily find it in your Explorer if you need it. Now let's throw some quick code together. Quick code. So the main thing you need to take away from any of this post-installation is control space. Control space is your friend when it comes to Eclipse. It is the autocomplete of your code. Anything that you type, control space will help you along, autocomplete, guess what you're trying to do. It's not quite as cool as Copilot from GitHub, or is it? I think it's from GitHub. Like AI generated code or something like that. It won't solve your problems, but it will help you over a lot of hurdles. So for instance, I need to create a constructor for the class hello. Now you might be like, oh, well, that's easy. You can go public hello brackets and then do that. Right? That's a lot of typing. It's a lot of typing for me. You'll be working on big projects. There's typing that you can do elsewhere that's more important. So what we can simply do is control and space. And what it will do is it will guess what you're trying to do. We're in a new class called hello. There's nothing in there. What is the most likely thing that you're trying to do from the beginning? Is make a constructor. So being the first option here, hello, constructor, and I click enter. It'll automatically generate our constructor for the class hello. And it'll even give us a little to-do to let us know that, oh, this is auto-generated. We need to populate this with whatever we desire. I'll even zoom that in a little bit, make it a bit easier to see. And yeah, the comment can be a bit of a pain, but if you're tracking a big project, you can see a lot of these to-dos. And funnily enough, if I go to Window and go to Show View and then go to Tasks, our task list, when I save this, will actually keep track of all these to-dos, which is very handy. So if there's new code generated anywhere, it will tell you about it in your tasks, which is very useful. The other one, this is our main class. This is where everything begins. So we need the public static void main with string array of arguments. Isn't that a mouthful to say, and isn't that a pain to type? Well, what if we just type main? And then let's see what Eclipse thinks we're trying to do. We are trying to make a main method. Public static void main string args. Hit enter. Oops, not in there. enter. And there we go. Code's automatically there. No worries at all. We could even just type new HE control space hello method, our constructor method. Magic. There we go. We want a new hello class right in here. And finally, to remove this to do and have it actually do something, let's make it system out print line some code. So just any message. And you might be like, okay, coming from BlueJ, system.out.print. You can even see it's trying to help me along. It's like, oh, you poor soul trying to type all this in. One of the very quick shortcuts that I learned early on in using Eclipse is SYSO. SYSO is a shorthand way of saying system out print line. And if I just back up here a second, control space, SYSO is short for system out, or SYSOUT. It's print standard output. And you can see here even what the code is going to generate. Ooh, it's flashing there. That's what it's going to try and do. If we go, it'll autofill it, and it'll even put us between the brackets, which is super useful, because then I can just like, hello. Wonderful. Oh, I had a cough there. Excuse me. Which is very useful, right? You are put in the prime location where you need to be to do what the system assumes you're going to need to do. Very, very handy, very useful. And the reason I backed up and just showed you like what SYSO, when you like type it out, what it's guessing, notice how it's the only option available there. So if I control space after I've typed SYSO, there's only one thing that it can auto-complete to, that it can guess, and it will automatically implement that one, which makes it a very quick shortcut, SYSO, control space, and you don't even have to hit enter, it fills it in. Very, very useful. What else is there that I can show you? Oh yeah, if I create another class, and I call this one, put it in the package, hello world.objects, and let's say that I create a person. Very simple. Again, it package hello world.objects, class person. Now, I'm just going to start hammering away on the keyboard and just show you some of the shortcuts along the way. So first of all, control space, and we want a constructor, which is our usual default option. Very useful. And up here, I want to create a private string of first name and last name. Okay, and these are not accessible outside of this class because it is private. Private string of first name and last name. Now, I need a getter and setter because obviously they're not used in here for anything. And I obviously want to be able to refer to a person's first name and a person's last name. So let's create a getter and setter. Now for this, I hovered over where we've got a squiggly. So you can see very faint under these, you've got a little yellow squiggly. It even gives us a little light bulb on the side here with multiple markers that it's trying to recommend things to us. And we can see here that the value of filled person.firstname is not used. So we can actually auto remove these. If they're not actually being used at all, they're just wasting space in our code. We can get rid of them. Or we can create a getter and setter for first name and the same as well for last name. So let's do that. Let's go create getter and setter for first name, and it'll create a new getter called get first name and a new setter called set first name. And if I click OK, boom, don't have to type anything, does it all for you. And I'll do the same for the last name. And I'll also tick generate method comments. And it'll actually put in a comment saying what the return of these are and what the variables are, the parameters for these as well. And it puts all the keywords in for you. Very, very useful for your Java docs if you need to export your project. Brownie points for whatever project you're working on in uni as well, or if you've got documentation to hand in. Very, very useful, very handy. You might have noticed hello world hello world.objects. Technically, hello world objects is under hello world, but we've got this sort of weird like classification. Like this is somehow completely different from this. You can fix this by going to View menu. It's the 3 dots up here. Going to Package Representation and going to Hierarchical. What flat will do is try and keep everything in a nice, very like non-ragged list. Whereas hierarchical will sort of nest things as they go into certain folders. Before I do that, if I just show you in here too, if I go to where this is stored, I know there's a quick way of doing this, it's just force of habit. So under hello world, got source, hello world. Then we've got objects and hello, right? Hello world.objects. And then person. So it's sort of a mismatch. If you prefer the layout of folders, hierarchical will now put hello world and then objects and then person, all nested, which I find quite nice. Preferable to flat. So that's just what I use. Another handy thing for layout and organization is you can drag the tab. So what I've done is click and hold and then drag it across. And I can pin these side by side. Most editors, like comprehensive editors, will do this. And again, you can put this back by popping on the tab that it was previously next to, or any other tab that you want it to conjoin to. And you can split them any way you want, like above and below, so they're one below the other. Usually you have this sort of blank space on the side, so personally I left and right things. Or like on a bigger screen you'll have like 3 columns, which can be very useful. Another thing is, let's say we're going to use this person object, person p is equal to a new person. Permission, no, person. Now notice here, by auto completing person over here, it imported our hello world.objects.person because it's in another package. It'll import that automatically, and it just makes things a lot easier. You don't have to manually import stuff. Same with things like the scanner. If you control space, it will give you a list of like different packages that it might assume that you're trying to use. And for me, I just want java.util scanner, which is to read things from the console. And we can see here, import Java util scanner. So all those nightmares on BlueJ, forgetting imports and stuff, all gone. Control space, it'll rough estimate it, and then if you find the right one, enter, which is absolutely brilliant. And if it's unused, it'll tell you, and it'll actually give you the option to remove unused imports, and it'll just delete all the ones that are unused. So again, less dead code, less waste. And let's say p.set first name. We're going to make a me. We're going to make a Jazza. There we go. And then we're going to print hello to p.get first name. Nice. Okay, well, p is not a very good identifier for a variable name. If I hold down Alt, Shift, and R, we get to rename the variable. And surprisingly enough, all instances of this variable will be renamed at the same time. So this is variable I'm just going to call Jazza because it's me. And when hitting enter, it'll lock in those changes. And we can see here person Jazza, Jazza.setFirstName, Jazza.getFirstName. Updates everywhere. Alt Shift R, fantastic. It even works on the class. This is how good it is. Let's call this class Hello World. Now mind you, because we're using this in our main method, if I just drag this across, main, new hello world, it's like some like applications and scripts might not like this. Like you might break stuff doing this by renaming a whole class, which is fine. I mean, we're not tying into anything else, and I'm glad that it gives you a little warning because it means that, you know, external stuff can break doing this, which is a big thumbs up, or a thumbs down if it does break something. So, you know, your mileage may vary. But if I click continue, it'll lock in those changes, and now our hello has become hello world. Very, very cool. Very useful. The other very useful thing, mind you, all of these options are available from right click too. So if you were to like, where's refactor, rename, Alt Shift R, you can see here that it even gives you the shortcut name there. The other one we want to look at is open call hierarchy. And what that'll do is it'll tell you where this particular thing occurs and where it is sourced from. So for instance, let's say person. Let's say, where has person been called? And we can see it's used in hello world, this bit here, new person. We can even see where person originates, like the actual class for person, where that particular constructor exists. And it'll take us there automatically. And it's very handy for if you have lots of instances of something. Let's say Jazza, Control-Alt-H. There we go. We can see it's used. Oh, this is searching hello world. I want to search for this open call hierarchy. And I'm assuming it's just saying that this is where it exists. It exists within hello world. Very, very useful. Very handy for large projects to find stuff. Especially in things that have like over 50 different classes and you're trying to find this one particular method. Where does it come from? And it'll even work on things like system-specific classes and methods. So we can see that print line exists, and it's going to take a little while. It exists inside the JRE. This is the actual method that does the print line, which is pretty cool. Prints a string and then terminates the line. This method behaves as though it invokes print string and then print line with a variable parameter x. Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, we don't need to worry about it that much. But yeah, just know that it does work on everything and can cause some problems. Only problem being is if you have this ticked, this option set, which is link with editor. And what it will do is it will, whatever you're looking at, it will highlight in your package explorer. If I close all this down just so that it's all packaged up, click on person, it'll expand it directly to this particular option here, this different, this specific, package and class. So it's very handy for making the left point to the same thing as what's open on the right, which is very useful. I believe this video's gone on for far too long already. Hopefully this has been helpful in like getting you started and like getting things running. I know this isn't really a beginner-friendly view of like the functionality. Hopefully just the control space. If you've made it this far in the video, I give you a big honorable thumbs up. Like from me to you. You don't even have to give me that. I'm giving that to you. I wish I could give you guys thumbs up. That'd be so nice. But yeah, you guys are the best for viewing this far. Hopefully it's helped. If it has helped, give me a thumbs up and we can exchange them. You know, I'm never good at closing videos. It's just true. I've done this video like 5 times now, and I've always tripped up at the ending. So thanks for watching. Hope you are having or have had a great day or evening. I know that's usually the case for me. Let me know how you get on. If there are any other cool tips and tricks, put them in the comments, because I'm pretty sure both me and anyone else watching that like might need something specific will find that useful. And yeah, if there's any like cool tips and tricks for the installation process, I know 9-9 is very, very useful for like pretty much everything that I do. If you know of a quicker way of doing it, then you know, mad props to you. But yeah, let me know how you get on, and I'll see you in the next one, whenever that may be. Hopefully soon. It's been too long. All right, see you guys.